Hey, I've got a reading update for you guys and a little bit of a life update, which I guess for me is kind of the same thing because reading is my life. And being a responsible reader nowadays, I'm actually reading the books that I've already bought instead of buying new ones, which is fairly unheard of. One of the books I'm reading right now is called The Wealth Money Can't Buy by Robin Sharma. And he's sold tens of millions of books. And he's got some of my favorites, some absolute classics. One of them, man, the dialogue in this book is actually terrible, but the ideas are solid, and like nobody talks like this in real life. But it's a business parable called the 5 a.m. Club, and if you can get past like the like the framing parable, like the ideas are like transformative. And this one is not a parable. It's kind of it's just a series of messages, right? And mentoring messages he calls them. And I mean, some of his clients are like billionaires, like, heads of state, he's like top high level mentor. And so this is a collection of some of his best ideas that he shares with his personal clients. And it's divided into the 8 forms of wealth. And yes, like, financial wealth is absolutely one of them. Like, he does not, like, there are other forms of wealth, obviously, family, your craft, your community, physical, mental health, all of these things, right? These are forms of wealth, but he absolutely does not discredit like the very real role of financial wealth as well. So there's a chapter in that too. Don't worry, but it's a fantastic book. I'm really enjoying it. It's one of those books you can just kind of go through. Take maybe a chapter a day or a few pages per day, and it's really worthwhile. So I'm enjoying that quite a bit. And the next book I'm reading right now, I've been reading it for months, and I'm only, man, I'm maybe 200 pages in, but it's Don Quixote, Miguel Cervantes, and I mean it's an absolute classic. It's 400 years old. It's like the first modern novel, and it's just a fantastic story that you can just get lost in. It's just an amazing, just incredible book. And I'd like to say that that's the reason why I'm taking so long, but that's not the reason why I'm taking so long. However, like it's not the kind of book that you want to just like rush through. And interestingly enough, so I mean, even though this book is 400 years old, the jokes still hold up. Like it's still funny. Like the jokes that would have been funny to readers 400 years ago, they're still funny now. And I mean, that makes perfect sense. But because people don't change that much. But at the same time, it was just kind of interesting. And the next one's called "Play a Bigger Game" by Marcus Collius. And I want to say that I took a chance on this book, but I didn't really take a chance. I mean, he's decently well enough known. He's got several 100,000 followers across social media. He's been doing what he does for years. He's got decades in business, and so like he was just new to me. So I took a chance on a new author for me, and I'm definitely glad I did. And it's both the 7 universal principles that for success and fulfillment and just winning at life. And what are they? There's integrity. That's number one. Integrity, choice, discipline, consistency, things like that, right? And it's really a wonderful book, and it's not the kind that's super heavy, but it's easily digestible and just really interesting and just it's just fun to read. I like it. He's some just fantastically worthwhile things to say, and they're just I mean these are the kinds of things that you should fill your mind with as often as possible, right? And I mean there's so many worse things that you could fill your mind with. Like you need books like this to just kind of pull yourself out of this sort of negativity nosedive and start, putting your life in a better direction. And so, yeah, books like this will definitely help. Then another one, it's called The Black Count by Tom Rees, and a little bit of a backstory here. The Count of Monte Cristo is like one of my absolute favorite novels of all time. It's just a classic novel about revenge, retribution, betrayal, and so this one, okay, so the Count of Monte Cristo is actually based on like a real person, and it was actually the author's father who he based like the Count on. And so this book it won the Pulitzer Prize, and it's about Alexander Dumas' father and how he was like the real Count of Monte Cristo, and he was betrayed and thrown in prison for something he didn't do, and like all of these things, right? And he's just this larger than life figure that really made a big impact on Alexander Dumas, like enough to really, I mean, to inspire him to write this whole 1,200 page novel that 150 years later would become one of my absolute favorite books of all time, and it's just really incredible. And so this is like the true real life backstory of like the real guy the Count of Monte Cristo was based on, and a lot of the historical elements from the French Revolution and just things like that. A lot of history, a lot of personal stories, and it's just really like beautifully done, and I love it. It's fantastic. I've been reading this one for a little while as well, and I'm just savoring it. Like I'm enjoying it. I feel no need or desire to race through this one, and I'm just taking my time, really enjoying it. So if you liked Count of Monte Cristo, you'll really like this one too. And another book that I just kind of took a chance on is this one. It's called Who is Max Lewis by Max Lewis, and it's a business book. So he sold one of his companies, $37 million, and this is like it's 37 chapters on 37 lessons on business building, wealth accumulation, things like that. And it starts off like him like from a super young age just selling like mangoes door to door to his neighbors, and just that entrepreneurial spirit, like starting young. And I really I'm not finished this book obviously, but I'm really enjoying the sort of development of this really young kid who saw the value or the fulfillment that comes from growing and building a business, and then he became like the grown adult who just who was the natural consequence of all of these decisions along the way. And he sort of breaks down what those decisions were and how you can make similar ones if that's the kind of future that you want to build for yourself. And I'm really enjoying it so far. And I mean, I'll have all of my notes and everything on my Patreon as well. And I mean, I share all of my book recommendations, at least the best ones, with my newsletter. It's called Reading Life, so it'll be down in the video description here. Then there are a few books I'm reading on my phone. So I got the YouTube Formula by Daryl Eves, and it's one of like the absolute best books on YouTube, like being successful on YouTube that you could ever read. And I was on just on a call with a friend of mine, Gabe, and he's got an excellent channel on like minimalism and finance, and he's got like 500,000 subscribers, right? And even if you and 500,000 of your friends subscribe to this channel right now, I would like just be like at that same level. But yeah, he's I brought up this book to him, and sure enough, like obviously he's got it right on the shelf behind him. So he's read it before, he's implemented the ideas in this book, and it blew up his channel. So that's my plan. So it's really good so far. Then I've also got the new Elon Musk biography by Walter Isaacson. And a few years ago, in 2015, actually, I read the Ashley Vance biography of Musk. And back then he was already an interesting dude, like somebody that you can definitely learn from, like his career trajectory. But that was like 10 years ago almost that book came out. Like think of everything that he's done and been through in the last 10 years. And so this new like updated biography, if you will, goes through all of that, and it's Walter Isaacson. So I mean, it's good. I'm not finished that book yet, of course, but I'm maybe I don't know, I'm maybe 75 pages in or something like that, and I'm really enjoying it. It's another one that I have no real compulsion to like to race through it or anything. I'm enjoying his life story, and he's been through some shit. Let me tell you. So it's an interesting ride. Then the last two, and actually I just finished this one, but I'll mention it anyway. It's called Day Trading Attention by Gary Vaynerchuk, and I mean it's all about social media growth, and the idea is basically so if you want to grow on social media, you go where the attention is currently, and all of the platforms like they have varying levels of attention. So a few years, I mean a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, like nobody was paying attention to TikTok, right? So TikTok was all for like stupid dances and, like, and 13-year-olds, right? And like that was it. So like nobody was really kind of paying attention to people on there. But then the attention moved to TikTok. And so like if you wanted to build a presence online, build brand, then like a very smart move, like 5, 10 years ago was to move all of your efforts to TikTok, right? And so it's the same kind of thing. It's evaluating where the attention is and then moving your focus there, and knowing the native elements or like how you win with respect to each platform. 'Cause, like they're all different, right? So what works on Facebook is not going to work on Twitter, right? And you have to like there's a unique sort of voice that you would use on LinkedIn that if you brought that to Instagram, it wouldn't make sense. Like nobody talks like that on Instagram, whereas on LinkedIn it's the norm, right? So a more professional, type thing, right? So it's day trading attention. So you go where the attention is, and then you capitalize on that to grow your business, grow your brand, and just make a shit ton more money. And yeah, I just finished the audio version, so I would recommend listening to the audio version instead of. Well, okay. Um, Actually, let me back up. So it's not the worst idea to buy both versions. Obviously, that's what Gary recommends, but there's a reason for that. So I really enjoy him like reading, like narrating his own audiobooks, because a lot of times he'll just go off script and he'll talk for like a minute, or whatever, or even just a few seconds to add context, or kind of go into something that just happened after he wrote the book, but before he recorded the audio version, and sort of add a little bit something that is just not available in the printed book. But at the same time, the printed book has like all these QR codes where you can just go and like um, go to the post that he's referencing, and it's like sort of follow along in that way. And it's like graphically laid out and all that stuff. So it would not be the worst idea to buy both the physical and the audio, but of course, doing so is playing right into his hands. That's exactly what he wants. So the last book is called The Winner Effect by Ian Robertson, and it's one that I'm really enjoying. And it's annoying in one sense, and the reason why it's annoying is that he uses what's called open loops, and like that's super simple to explain. And I try to do it on my YouTube videos. Like you open like you make somebody curious with something. You open a storyline, and then you sort of keep that story open, and you don't give like the punchline till later. And then you open another loop, and then you're sort of then you kind of go back and you think, I'm making this complicated, but you sort of like, but before we find the answer to that, we have to go back here, and so like it sort of like keeps you engaged in the video. You'll notice like YouTubers do this all the time, including myself. But at the same time, like in a book, he uses it constantly. Like at the end of, like not even at the end of chapters, like sometimes like just several times within like pages. It's like, but before we get to the answer of this, we have to go back to that, and then but no, does that solve this mystery? To answer that, we have to go forward. Dude, just tell me. But it's a fantastically interesting book about how people who win generally keep on winning, and it's about the neurobiological changes that happen in people's brains after they win. So like when you stack victories together, like testosterone increases in your brain, cortisol decreases, all of these sort of physiological changes. So like once you've won something, whether that's like a sporting event, or you've even like won money, or like won sort of any competition, or like gained something, you sort of carry that confidence forward with you, and like into your next thing. And that goes for like boxers and things like that. So he follows Mike Tyson in the book a little bit, how he won several times, and then it sort of sets him up to sort of fight this much like tougher opponent. But because he had all of these what I would call reference experiences of him winning, he just brings that confidence, that testosterone, that lowered cortisol into that next fight, and he just dominates, right? So that's about the whole. So the whole book is about why that happens, how that happens, and a bunch of like really interesting case stories and things like that. And just it's so much more than that, and I'm really really enjoying it. It's one of those sort of classic. Psychology books that came out years ago that I'm just kind of diving into now, and I'm so glad that I did. I'm also very glad that you decided to watch this YouTube video. And speaking of winners, I've created an entire private business mastermind called the Competitive Advantage. And so that's my private coaching community where I take people who want to add at least $1,000 a month to their online business, and at least 1,000, like bare minimum 1,000. My goal is to just blow up your revenue by like $5,000 a month, right? So it's a whole community of winners that I'm coaching personally to blow up their personal brands, expand their social media reach, and just add, a bunch of zeros to their income. And like I'm really just proud of who I have in that group and just how hard they all work, and just like the kind of vision that they have for their online careers, and how they're leveraging the internet to just build a better future for themselves. Exactly what I'm doing, except I'm just like a few steps ahead of most people, right? So I'm not like Dan Coe, I'm not an Alex Hormozy type guy. So I never, I never claim to have all of the answers. But that being said, I'm several steps ahead of most people, right? So I'm able to help in ways that they can. Like they're too far ahead to help you. Like you don't go to Bill Gates to build a website. You go to someone who's just a few steps ahead of you, right? And so that's exactly what that group is. So if you want to make an extra $1,000 a month, extra $5,000 a month, I am exactly the kind of person who can and will teach you exactly how to do that. And so that's the first link down in the description. But thank you very much for watching this video. With that said, thank you again, and always remember, bookmarks are for quitters.
Waste time, no, I make time. All these people wanna hate, fine, I'ma make mine. While you sitting there complaining, I'll be training. While you sitting there just waiting, I'm creating. Yeah, sometimes I think that I'm unstoppable.